All right, great, we're live. So in this lesson, I'm gonna go over the modules and explain how they work. I think this is honestly one of the most fundamental lessons in this whole course or series, and this module, this specific module, this specific lesson will allow you to build on top of the free builder kit, right? So if you understand what we're gonna go over today in this video, you will be able to add anything that can go as a SaaS. You know, you'll be able to add functionalities, security, systems, remove security, change security, add systems, add other features, add tools, add AI, remove AI, do whatever you want. But you have to understand this deeply. I'll try to go more in detail, but we'll see. I try also to keep these lessons like very short. So we do have 12 modules in general, right? And that goes from user. Again, it's 12, so I'm gonna try to be quick. So we have the user management. So user management, and that's one, and then two, three, four. Okay, so we'll start. You know what? Let's start with the user management. Let's start with the user management, and maybe go over that. So the user management is very simple. It's literally what it says. Well, in here it says we have the registration and login, of course. So in any SaaS, obviously, you know that every time the user comes back, he needs to log in. If I go black, the user needs to log in. That's one thing. And also, when you initially onboard this user, they have to register, right? So they need registration. Registration. Okay, they need registration and they need to log in. These are very clear, very simple. Now I'm gonna give you a bit of information technically about this. Now what the way this would help you is when we go maybe over the video of how to use AI with the kit, because this kit, you doing it directly with this kit, it's not gonna probably be done in 3 months. I was only able to achieve Prigmar in 3 months, at least the app, right? Prigmar the app. I'm not talking about like other stuff that I added or that I needed later, but the app took only 3 months, give or take, right? 3 months, honestly, like it's plenty. And for you to be able to do that, you have to understand what I'm gonna explain here, so you know how to prompt the AI. Obviously, we will go over that also on the AI lesson, but this will give you that understanding. So the login has many components inside this kit. So the way this kit works, this applies to everything in all these 12 modules. So we have backend, which what runs on the server, right? And this is usually Node.js, right? And we have front end. Now, unfortunately, again, this is technical part, which is JavaScript, and the framework is React.js. Okay. So this runs on the server. This runs in the browser. The user interface, right? The user's browser. Okay. So the way the any module, any of the 12 modules work, we have a model. If we have a model, so this model represents the actual data. How are we gonna store and manipulate the data? And then we have a route. Which tell us what do we need in terms of functionalities. This is what we call the API. Okay, so the routes are the APIs, and the model is the API's access to that data, right? And obviously there is a DB here, a database in the backend, MongoDB. Okay, so this is the backend. Backend, very simple, very simple. You don't need anything. Like, you don't need to understand much. So for instance, I'll give you an example. So if you want to edit a this user management module, right? You know that if you want to add age to a user, or like field called age, because I don't think we have one. We have date of birth, but we don't have age. I think we have date of birth. We might not have that because it's useless for us, at least in the previous modules, in the previous products that I built with it. So the model and the route, as I said, if you want to add age, you go to the model and you find the model that says user, and then you change, you double click and you look down, you'll find like a bunch of blocks. One of them say name, description, blah blah blah. You can copy one of the blocks and you decide what type of data that age would be, and then you add it. Done. And that's it. And then you can add a new route or go to an existing route and ask for that data and parse that data from the request. Assume that the user gonna send it from the front end, and then you go to the bottom section and you do the front end part. Now the front end part is slightly more complex, and the reason why this is slightly more complex is because the back end is straightforward. It takes a command through the API, and it goes to the database and it pulls the data based on a schema, and that is the model, and then it sends it back to you. The front end, the way React works, first of all, React works through cycles, and I'm not trying to be very technical, just giving you enough information so you can follow up later on the AI section. Okay, so React works through cycles, right? And assuming in this diagram that I have here, this is my front end. Okay, this is my front end as a cycle, and this is my back end as a cycle. Okay, so if I have a, let's say I have a button here, if I have a button, okay, B, when I click on that button, there is two things that happen. So the front end, its data is kept in a database like structure, but it's not a database, it's called a store. Okay, so the store, in this case we're using Redux, right, keeps the data in the front end, and that would be example, right? So user would in the kit that you will receive, the user, there is user info, and I think that's under user also, and then there is user dot projects, right, and user dot whatever objects, any sort of objects, and we'll talk about this in the object management module. So this is very customizable. This is the customizable part. This is where you learning about this will be very useful to you. So you need to understand this. So we have the store. When I click on a button, there is some bunch of technical terms like reducers. So you will hear that. I'll explain that. And don't get scared about these terms. They're literally plug in place terms. Just when I say them, I will give you an image that you think of, and then you will be able to just figure out this whole thing. There is reducers, there is actions, there is actions, action types, which is like you can put them in the actions, and that's pretty much it. So reducers and actions would work with the store, and when you click on this button, an action will be dispatched. Okay, term dispatched is term, means like broadcasted. An action will be dispatched, and then a reducer will do some work. Okay, and that work that the reducer does will affect this store, right? For instance, you want to add a new project, new project. What happens? An API get called, right, through a hook. I don't know how to cut this short, like an API get called through a hook, and this hook talks to this backend part, and this backend part does the work. Either, let's say, this button new project inserts a new project in your, using your schema, your module here, puts it in the DB. Okay, and then this route, after this operation is done, it sends back success or whatever you want, right? Success, simplest thing. And then this success comes back through this hook and says, hey, on load or res, equals success. When res equals success, what this means now we know that the data is 100% exists in the back end, and that next time when I log in, I know that there will be a new project. But if I stop here, what I see in front of me, this front end will not reflect that, will not reflect what we did, because simply we did that on the back end. We send the data and we put it on the back end. So what needs to happen here, this small or slightly more complex game of store and reducers and actions need to be dispatched so it would update the view locally in front of the user, so he would see, oh, here is a new project. And that's simply we're updating the existing local data after we did the action on the remote data. That's simply what it is. The whole product, every SaaS, works exactly like I just explained. This is the only core knowledge you need to build any sort of SaaS. Everything else works like this. Everything else almost works like this. So I hope that makes sense. So you have your small loop of the back end, right? Data, the database, you have model, which is the schema, how the data should look like, give or take. And then you have your routes to control it. And then in the front end, you have your UI, which is connected to your store state. And this store, right, the Redux, whenever we make an action on the back end, we update it on the front end. Sometimes we don't need to make an action on the back end. We just want to update the front end and update throughout the app in the front end. And we don't want to persist anything, so we can get rid literally of this other side, the back end. We can do everything in the front end. But just to reflect that in what I see and in a future component, if the structure is slightly complex, we use what I just explained from hooks, dispatching reducers, dispatching actions, and then reducers would work on the store to make a change. And these are just the concepts, right? So if you can glimpse this, you're done. You know everything you need to know to use the free builder kit. This is the gem. This is the core of it. And I'm sure people who know full stack development, they're laughing because I made it sound very stupid and very simple, which it is very simple. And if you have no idea what this is and you got this and you understood it, man, let me tell you, or woman, it's gonna be awesome. You will be able to build any SaaS you want using AI very fast, just by having this knowledge. So anyway, back to our then I hope this makes sense, right? The user management. So we have the model, we have the routes, and in the front end we have these things that I just named. We have a store that represents the user, which has user info, and we have reducers, which is the actions that we want to be done on the data of the user in the front end side. And we have the action types, which now we need to label them so we can keep structure. We would know one of them is edit, one of them is delete, one of them is add, and we have a couple hooks that are generic work on all the modules, but we use them obviously for the specific model. And that's pretty much it. We have couple hooks, reducers, and actions. And the store, obviously, the structure of the Redux, the store. That's pretty much it. If you know this, you will use the free builder framework with no problem. If you understood what I said, or you already know what I just said, you're in. You have a fully architected and engineered solution that's very generic, that you can use for any SaaS product to build very, very fast. You can build the SaaS in literally 1 month if you work half time. You don't go all in. If you work weekends, if you work seriously weekends and sometimes during the night after work, you can build the SaaS in 1 month using the AI, right? You would still need to see the next lesson, just the product, but real SaaS, not like this base 44 or 64 or whatever it's called thing. Yeah, another UI that does a CRUD operation: create, read, update, delete. No. Solve a problem. You gotta solve a problem. That CRUD is, I gave you that. You have the CRUD, and it's not because it's the hard thing. I gave it to you because it's generic. It's simple. That's why I was able to make kit out of it. So if you go to base 44 and you start paying money there, they don't have business thinking yet. So AI will get to a point where it just does everything, and probably better than humans. It will get there. Okay, so now is the time to use this. I don't know why I dump everything in the same video, but I digress. Hopefully this was helpful. I will go over the other modules, but I think I should stop this this lesson here, and then we'll proceed on the next video.